Hello, hello, hello. I am Valerie Day, and I am the host of the podcast Prayers and Pussy, where we have candid conversations about spirituality and sexuality and everything in between. And I think today is probably like one of those everything in betweens, probably more on the spirituality and then the sexuality. But you never know. We're unscripted. So we'll see where it goes. But I am super excited for a lot of reasons. I have with me today Donna Gershman. And one of the reasons I'm excited was last May, I listened to her podcast, her episode one of her podcasts, and I messaged her on Facebook and said, "Oh, I love your podcast. And I have one, but I have been procrastinating on it for 4 years." She literally messaged me back and said, "Do you have time to talk?" It was like 10 o'clock at night. I mean, we don't ever talk, 10 o'clock at night. And she was so supportive that she wanted me to know that it didn't have to be perfect, that I just needed to have fun and do it. So, Donna, we're now on, I think we're on episode 13. I need to look. But
12.
we're on 12. Thank you. Okay, we're on episode 12. And what's exciting, it's like that's because you said just do it. And so I just did it and followed your encouragement. So how I know Amazing Donna is through Agape International Spiritual Center. We both became licensed practitioners through Centers for Spiritual Living back then, a gazillion. I think when I first got licensed, she was probably already emeritus. And what I love about Donna, not only just that she's so real and fun and interesting, is that she's a powerhouse. Like she holds that like absolute space of a practitioner. We're going to get to hear about her journey of becoming a practitioner. And Donna is a powerful intuitive healer, and she has been part of a lot of miracles in people's lives. So, Donna, I'm going to pass the baton to you, and you can just tell us, how did you get into, becoming a healer and a practitioner, and what was your journey like?
Not what I expected.
Yay!
Surprise, surprise. I mean, I moved to California from the East Coast like in 1986. And from the moment I got here, people kept mentioning to me the word agape. From the moment I got here, they would talk to me and they go, there's this place. And then I'd go, agape. I'd finish their sentence for them. And they go, yeah. I go, no, isn't that a church? Like, I thought it was a church. Okay. And I grew up Jewish. And so the word church was like, no mention me about church, and I had this thought that churches had Jesus and Jesus, and Jesus was like a whole taboo to me. So I was saying no, no, no. And this went on for 5 years. And then finally, a friend of mine called me right before Easter, I remember, and she said, "I'm coming down on Easter and I'm going to Agape." And I'm like, and she goes, "And you're coming with me?" And I'm like, "Not." And she goes, "Yes, you are. You're
Easter.
coming."
The Jews going to go to Easter service.
Yeah. I'm like, Easter of all days, you want me to go? And so, but we hadn't seen each other for years. And she was a really close friend to me. And I really wanted to see her. And she said, "I'm not going to see you unless you go to Agape." And that's how she said it to me. "You're coming with me, Gershman." That's what she said.
Oh my
So I was
God, I
like,
love this story.
in the car, I'm like totally dreading it. Right. And I was saying to her, if I see one Easter bonnet, I am out of there. Okay. Are we clear? Okay. So I went there kicking and screaming. Of course, we get there. There's a crowd of people, and there's this woman named Levada Campbell. You might remember.
Yes, I know Levada.
Giant
The
canary
big
yellow,
Easter bonnet.
canary yellow Easter bonnet. And she's like, "Hello." And she's like, and I'm like, "Oh my God." Okay. Anyway, I got through that and it was packed. And somehow we ended up in like the second row right in front, right? And
Of
I'm like,
course you
how did
did.
I score these seats? There's like a line. I don't even know how I got these seats. And then I'm telling too long of a story, but what happened
No,
was,
it's not too long. We love all of the details.
okay, all right. Well, several months earlier, so we're going to rewind. I was at this club one night called At My Place in Santa Monica, and this guy had come out. He was a special guest, and they introduced him, and I had never heard of him before. His name was Carl Anderson. And
Oh
I
my
happened to be there.
God.
I happened to be there. And he comes out and he sings. And as soon as he started to sing, I got like goosebumps all over me.
Of
And I
course you
thought to
did.
myself, if God could sing, this is what God would sound like. And I was
Mm.
so moved by the experience. I was literally crying when the guy was singing. I had never heard a voice like this. It was so moving. Well, guess who came out onto the pulpit at
When
Agape
you
that
were at
day?
Agape on Easter Sunday.
There I was going, why am I here? What am I doing here? Okay, Jesus here now. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on in me. And
Right.
out walks this guy, Carl Anderson, and he sings the 23rd Psalm.
Did your jaw drop?
And I started bawling, crying, like from
Oh,
my feet up, like where my whole body was shaking. And it was so embarrassing. And I was like,
I
like
love
ugly
this.
crying, no idea why. And then in the meantime, there was this woman sitting up there at the piano. And I felt like there was a spotlight on her, but there was no spotlight on her. She was just
Huh.
glowing on her own. And her name was Ricky Byers Beckwith, Ricky Byers at the time.
Now.
And so I was like, why is that woman glowing up there? You know what I mean? She had this bright glow. And I didn't know what it meant, but I thought, I want what she's having because she had a glow
Yes.
and you could see something there. And
Yes.
anyway, between the glow and Carl Anderson, if God could sing, that's what God would sound like. I was stunned, and I couldn't not go back. And I just kept
Mm.
going back, and I was going, you know, twice a week, doing Sunday services. And it wasn't until 5 years later. So that was in 91 or 92. And then 5 years later, a gal who just attended Agape, who I happened to know or meet during services, her name was Hanalea.
Okay.
Remember Hanalea? Hanalea comes up to me one night after a service on a Wednesday night, and she said, "So, Donna, when are you going to be a practitioner?" And I was like, "What?
What? What's a
What's a
practitioner?
you know?" She goes, "When are you going to be a practitioner?" I go, "What? What do you mean? Like, is that required or something?" Do everybody who goes to Agape has to be a practitioner? She goes, "Sit down with me." And she sat down and she said, "You know you're a practitioner already, don't you?"
Mm.
And she made me promise that I would look into classes,
Oh,
like what it was
wow.
about. And I promised her. I had no idea, but I went and I looked into it and I started classes. And I don't know, I went the whole way. And in 1999, I graduated as a practitioner. But, and it was so me. It was like it was the thing I didn't know I needed or wanted, but it was exactly what I needed and wanted. And I had
Mm.
been a comedian for many years and I had just retired in 91 after 10
Oh
years.
my gosh. I think I knew that and forgot. I love that. You were a comedian.
Yeah, and I left comedy because I didn't feel like I could make the kind of impact in the world. It felt a little frivolous. Like
Okay.
to me at the time. I felt like I was using just one muscle and I wanted to
Okay.
impact the world in a bigger way and I didn't think it I mean, I could look at it from a different perspective now, but at the time I felt like it wasn't what was actually calling me. And then I found
Mm.
Agape and it answered something in me I didn't know I was asking. And
Mm.
so that's it. And then 1997 or 1998, somewhere around then. It was like a year before I graduated, or right, a little bit before I graduated. I went to see a friend one day. We were going to go out to lunch. And when I got there, she wasn't quite ready. So she said, "Well, just sit in the living room and I'll be out in a minute." And I said, "Okay." And on her coffee table was one of these little bookmarks that if you turned it one way, it looked like Jesus. And if you tilted it, it looked like Mother Mary. Okay. And so I was
Oh.
just playing with this bookmark and I'm going, Jesus, Mother Mary, Jesus, Mother Mary, Jesus, Mother Mary. Just sitting there, right? And entertaining myself when something happened.
Oh,
Something
wow.
happened. And it changed me forever. And what happened was Jesus showed up.
Whoa.
I got filled with this love that was so big. There was no room for anything else.
Oh.
And it was like it had a name tag. I knew exactly who it was. And then I saw him standing in front of me, and I saw Mother Mary standing behind. And he said to me, I know you don't believe in me, and that's okay. But I
Mm.
just wanted you to know that I love you. And that feeling of unbelievable unconditional love that had filled me up stayed with me for hours. I mean, even after he disappeared, this love was unbelievable. It was just mind-blowing. I don't know how else to say it. It was not of this world. And he didn't ask me for anything. He didn't ask me to change. He didn't ask me to believe in him. He didn't ask me anything. He just wanted me to know he loved me. Well, this
Mm.
was like, I didn't even
Right.
think Jesus was real. As a Jew growing up, I don't know, in Judaism, they teach a lot through, characters.
Hmm. Hmm.
And as a kid, I just thought that they were characters, like in a comic strip, like they're just
Yeah.
teaching these stories through these characters. And I guess I just assumed Jesus was another character. I never thought he was actual. I never thought he was a real man. I never thought he was real.
Mm.
And I never gave it much thought. And it didn't really matter to me. It just wasn't on my radar. But when he showed up that day, I was like, oh my, what the
Holy
hell?
cow.
Like, so then I went to Agape and I asked Akili Beckwith, who ran the bookstore at the time, I said, something happened. I can't explain it, but I need you to like give me everything to read you can that's like right out of Jesus's mouth. Like I wanted it from the horse's mouth. I didn't want it from like interpreters, like what other people said. I wanted to hear what he had to say because I figured he's real. He
Right.
came to me for a reason. And I started researching him, and I found out that he said a couple things that were like profound, and that when I read them I was like, oh my god, I totally believe that. So I had already been operating under some of the principles without even knowing it. It just
Mm.
resonated with me. And one of the things he said was, it is done unto you as you believe. And
Mm.
I
Yes.
always knew that. I always knew
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
and then he said, ye are gods. I was like,
Mm.
whoa, okay. And greater things than these shall ye do, which meant greater things than what he did. He like raised the dead and healed the blind. And he was saying greater things than that we're going to do. And then, of course, he was a way shower. He was saying, don't put me up on a pedestal. I don't have anything special. We're all cut out of the same cloth. We're all made of God, and we can all do these things. The only difference between him and the rest of us is that he said, okay, use me. And so, and he wasn't completely willing either. He had some reluctance.
Right.
So,
Yes.
right. And
So
so,
you felt that affinity.
yeah. So then I decided, okay, why didn't more people take this guy seriously?
Mm.
Why did they separate him out? Why didn't they take his words? You know, why didn't they take that seriously? So I decided I was going to at least try. I was going to see if what he said was true. If I could do things like he did. I just needed to know if it was real or BS. The guy had showed up and he was real. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. And that love, oh my God. So
Yes.
I
Powerful.
started practicing, like I started on a plant and I
Oh,
did.
really?
I took a plant. It was like a bulb that somebody had given me years before. And every year at this time of the year, it would bloom and it would be this giant stem and then it would break. The stem would get too tall and it would break. And every year I'd be like, the plant is, whatever. So I
Right.
decided I was going to work with this plant. And I said, Donna, you're going to stay in this house all day long. I had something I wanted to do later that day. It was an agape event and I really wanted to go. And I chose that day because I wanted to put a little pressure on me. I didn't want to be willy nilly about it. So I thought, you're not leaving this house until you heal this plant. You're not going to that event at agape unless you heal this
It had
event,
already
heal
bent.
this plant. It was bent. It was broken. Yeah. So I just kept
Donna
trying,
Gershman.
and I was like praying and begging and doing all kinds of things. Of course, nothing was working. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I kept trying all these things,
You were willing.
Oh, I was exhausted though. All day long I was doing this. It was like, I don't know how many hours, like 10 hours. Okay. All day long working on this plant. And I was going, does this stuff work? You know, you said I could do blah, 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 and nothing's happening with this plant. So I was like, acting out and throwing a tantrum and doing all kinds of things, but I really wanted to go to this vet. And as it got closer to the end of the day, I was panicking, right? So anyway, finally, I just like got really still and I put my hands on the plant. And I just kept telling myself that this plant is whole. This plant is perfect. This plant is complete. There's nothing broken about this plant. This plant is whole. Okay. I just kept like a mantra in my head. And then I found myself sort of going, like sort of letting go, just getting out of my own way, getting my thinking mind out of the way. And I was just like, use me. You know what I mean? I just got out of the
Mm.
way and I just let it happen. And when I opened up my eyes, the plant was standing straight up in the air. There was no mark, nothing, like you would never have known. And then I kept saying, don't think anything about, like I wanted to
Oh,
not
right,
screw it
right,
up.
right. You were like, I don't want to jinx this and have it go back down.
So I was just like, I'm allowing this to be. I'm allowing this to be because this is the true nature of the plant. I'm allowing this to be because this is the true nature of the plant. And the plant was fine from there on. Okay. And it never broke ever again.
Wow.
So that was a moment for me because I had to prove it that what Jesus was saying was true. I just didn't know how, but I figured it out eventually, which was you get out of the way. That's how you get out of the way and you allow God to do it. And then I started to realize that I could do this thing. I needed to now check out, could I do animals? Could I do people? You know what I mean? Could I do myself? Whatever. And at the time, I had a girlfriend who was working in a facility. It was a long-term care facility for children who were born prematurely, and they were dependent on ventilators to breathe.
Mm.
It was
Wow,
a
intense.
long-term care facility, and all these kids were like, for the most part, forgotten children. Like they didn't have visitors. They had been in this hospital for years. None of them spoke. Nothing. They had been in there since infants. Some of them were 15 years old. They had been there
Wow.
for years. And I think like the parents didn't have insurance, that kind of stuff. It was that kind of
Mm-hmm,
place.
mm-hmm.
It was the saddest place I've ever seen in my life.
Mm.
And my girlfriend said at the time, I think you should try to get in there, like go in there one day and try to work with the kids. I'm like, you do that. It's like, you can't do that. There's HIPAA rules, right? Yeah. She's like, just, you know what? Just tell them you know me or whatever. If somebody catches you, just tell them you know me or whatever. Because she worked there. So one Saturday, and there was a whole drama that happened right before I went there. I was at a gas station. I fell down a hole. They were working on my car, changing the oil, and I
Oh
fell
my
down a
gosh.
20-foot hole. Okay, hit my head on cement. Okay, and climbed out of the hole.
Holy cow.
And when I got to the top, and I was all bloody and shit. Oh, excuse me. I didn't know if I
You
could
can
swear on this.
swear. This is called prayers and pussy. You can swear.
Okay. Well, my plan was to go to this hospital that day, but when that happened, I didn't know what to do. And I said to God, what should I do now? And Spirit said, you're going to go to the hospital. You're going to the hospital like you planned. I'm like, well, and anyway, I drove there. It turned out I had a concussion. Like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I drove over there. And when I walked in there, it's not like an ER or anything. They didn't have anything like that. It was a long-term care facility. But when they saw me walk in the door, I remember there was those automatic doors, the sliding doors
Yes.
open. Well, apparently I was walking like at a 90-degree angle and I had blood and dirt all over. So they were
You
like,
were a total scene from a movie.
they thought, yeah, like a zombie walking into the. All right, so they weren't equipped for this kind of thing, but they got a gurney. They were like, what happened? What happened? People spread out in different places. They got a gurney, and then they didn't have any place to put me, so they put me in front of the nurses' station. I was laying under like fluorescent lights. Okay.
The worst.
And there was like people taking my pulse and they were doing all these things. And then there was this moment where they left me alone. It was this one moment where everybody just went to get something and Spirit said, now get up and walk down the hall.
Oh my God, you were a
I
total scene from a movie.
Yeah, and I went down to the last door on the right and I walked in and there were 3 beds there and there were 3 girls. And I don't know, I intuitively walked over to the 3rd bed, which was closest to the window. And there was a little girl there, redheaded like you. And she was 5 years old. And she was in a catatonic state. So she was just like staring out the window, lifeless, like
Wow.
this. Okay.
Wow.
And I just went over to the bed and I just said, gosh, I really wanted to come here to help you guys out today. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I wanted to help. And then I ended up getting hurt. I said, I fell down this hole and I hurt myself. And all of a sudden, this little girl turns her head to me, reaches out her hand and squeezes my hand. I didn't really think anything of it, to tell you the truth. I was like, isn't she sweet? Like, that's so sweet. And then all of a sudden I hear screaming and people are going, where is she? Where is she? And they're all these people are looking
Are
for me
looking for
now.
you, the injured
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. And they find me in there, right? And they're like, what are you doing in here? And I'm like, oh, I had a concussion. So anyway, they bring me back out in the hallway, put me on the gurney again.
Oh my God,
And
this is the
I'm
best
telling
story.
them, I go, that little girl was so sweet. She squeezed my hand and blah, blah, blah. And they go, what? And I said, I told the story again. They go, that didn't happen. I go, oh, it happened. She squeezed my hand and, looked at me and she gave me a really, like she cared. So then all of a sudden they didn't believe me. They thought I was crazy. Okay. But the nurse behind the charge nurse who was behind the station there, she said, excuse me. And she leaves, disappears, comes back like 10 minutes later. It was a while. And she said, what did you say to her? And I said, I just told her that I was upset that I'd fallen and hurt myself. And she kind of gave out a little gasp and she said, oh my God. And I said, what? She goes, she was brought here. She was 5 at the time when I met her that day, but she had been there since she was 2.5. And she had been pushed down a flight of stairs by her mother and was
Oh,
in that state, that catatonic state ever since. And so when I
wow.
told her that I had fallen, that woke her out of her catatonic state.
Wow. So your
And
falling was by divine design.
apparently, and me telling her. And
Yes.
and then she got released from that hospital. She had been there 2.5 years and she got released to a relative. And as far as I know, I mean, she'd be almost 30. I don't let's see, I don't know. That was around 1998. So how many years ago
Wow.
is that? 26. So she'd be, oh my God, 31.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
So
a
that happened.
story.
Yeah.
That
And
is
so
an
then I kept going
amazing
back.
story.
I
So
kept
then you
going
kept
back.
going back there.
Every Saturday I would sneak in, literally. And but God would say, there was this bench in the hallway, like a wooden bench. And God would say, sit on that bench and do not go into the rooms until you can see these people as whole. Do not go in those rooms until you can see them, because they had ventilators. There was all these machines. They made a lot of noise. I mean, it was like you're
Right.
going into
Right.
a war zone, And so so sometimes it took me 5 minutes on the bench and sometimes it took me an hour, but I sat there until I was ready. And then after that, uh, the 2 other girls in that room with her also, no, the first girl in the first bed had a miracle that day. Um, when I went in there, I didn't know exactly what to do, but I knew I was ready to see her as whole. So I saw her as whole and I said, you know what? I'm just going to pray. She was also nonverbal, eyes shut, almost like she was in a coma state. Her eyes were not open. I remember that. So it was like I felt like I was talking to nobody, because she was like just there, not moving. And I said, you know what? I'm here. I just came to pray. How about I'm just going to pray for you? And, I hope that's okay. I don't know how you would feel about that, but if it's okay, I'm just gonna pray for you. So I prayed out loud. And I got a call a couple days later from my friend who said, did you do something with so and so? And I go, yeah, I prayed with her. And then she said, well, she has been in the hospital for, I think she was 15. She had been in the hospital for like 15 years. She needed a operation on her hips, but like, I don't know why, but she needed some sort of operation and she was physically in pain. And I could see that actually on her face. And, but there was no insurance. And so
Oh,
she had not gotten this operation that she had needed for years.
oh,
And apparently, all of a sudden on Monday, like I saw her on Saturday, on Monday, the insurance company called out of the blue after like 78 years or something. They called
whoa.
out of the blue and approved her surgery, and they took a helicopter and brought her to Children's Hospital, and she got her surgery that week.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy
Wow.
stuff. And
That's
other people came out of their states and went home as well. And right after working with them, it was all pretty obvious. So,
hearing you talk about this makes me think of the Ho'oponopono prayer and if you heard the story of the gentleman that he didn't even interact with them, that he just sat and did the prayer for each of those patients and that they all like
right,
were healed. It makes me think of that same thing. And his thing was about knowing their wholeness, which is what you're saying, right? Like it's just
absolutely.
phenomenal. Wow,
Yeah, so
Donna.
that was sort of the journey. And then, of course, I got things, I developed issues. My dog was diagnosed with terminal cancer when he was 9. And his veterinarian said to me, Donna, I know you're going to want to throw a lot of money at this, but don't. He has cancer all throughout his body. Please don't do that. If you insist, I'll give you, the number of an oncologist, but I really want to encourage you to just let him go. And that was on a Friday. I spent the whole weekend freaking out, because it was just me and him at the time. And I spent the weekend like really freaked out. And then Monday came around and I kept thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And Monday I looked at him and I said, what do we do? What do we do? And I heard him. I heard him. He looked at me. He had a certain look in his eyes, and I could see what he was telling me, and I could hear it. And he said, don't go there.
Don't go there, like saying, like,
Go
no,
there.
we're not going to this cancer diagnosis. But that's what
He
don't go there meant.
he woke me out of my slumber. He was like, you're going to kill me if you go there. I mean, he literally said to me, if you buy into that, I'm a goner. You're going to go down
Mm.
this path. You don't have to buy into that. And all of a sudden, it was like a flash went off in my head, like a revelation. I was like, oh my God, that's right. There's no cancer in God. There's no cancer in
Mm.
God. And then I'm like, okay, Scruffy, you're fine. That's what I said. That's it. We're not going down that path. It's over. What do you want to do today? I mean, that was literally, and he never had cancer again in his body. He lived another 9 years. He died at the age of 18. He taught me a lot of things between 9 and 18 about healing. He was a very good master teacher as well. And yeah, and my veterinarian, every time I would take him for his like regular scheduled visits or whatever, he'd say, can I please take blood, Donna? And I go, why? Because he could not believe that this dog did not have cancer anymore. And he kept wanting to see if he had cancer. So every time I said, okay, I don't care, but you're paying for it. I'm not paying for it.
And so he would draw blood and it
He
would
would draw
confirm every
blood, and
time.
every time he didn't have cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
He never had
goodness.
cancer again. It went away that day, and I knew it was gone that day. As soon as I had that revelation of like, oh, there's no cancer. What am I doing? Like I had taken the bait, hook, line, and sinker. I had gone there with all of my emotion. I mean, I was like,
Yeah. And then
A
Scruffy
daughter.
said, don't go there.
Don't go there. Wake up. Wake up. Why would you buy into that? You know too much. And then, when it hits somebody close to you like that, I mean, that's the true test, isn't it? Like, if you can get out of the way and know the truth for somebody that close to you, I mean, if he had died, I would have been an absolute mess. It was just him and I at the time. And I just I couldn't do that. Anyway, I got out of the way and he lived. And thank God. But then I knew if I could do that with him, I could do it with anybody, including myself. And I
Wow.
did have to do it with myself. And then just another little story kind of happened around the same time. No, a little bit
I
earlier.
really think that there needs to be a screenplay, that somebody needs to write the screenplay. But like, seriously, these stories are a movie, girl.
It's in the works. Um, I'm writing an 8
Oh, you are.
episode,
You're writing a screenplay.
no,
See?
not a screenplay, a limited series
Okay.
for
Oh,
television. Um,
it's so totally. I see it. I see it. I see it. Yeah.
Thank you. You hold that for me. Thank you.
I
Um,
will.
so somewhere before I graduated, I also got diagnosed with eczema, right? I had eczema up and down my legs for years. I mean, it was like the worst case scenario, the worst case episode of um, eczema you'd ever
Eczema.
seen. Yeah, I could not wear, like in the summer, I had to wear pants, jeans or whatever. People would always say to me, "Why are you wearing pants? It's 100 degrees out." Because I had eczema. And I didn't want to tell people that, but it was bad. And I had it for years and years and years. And I went to a doctor, and the doctor said to me, "There's no cure for eczema. You're just going to have to get used to it." That was what the doctor said to me. On the same day, I had another appointment with another dermatologist who somebody had referred to me. And I went to her like an hour later, and she said the same words to me. "There's no cure for eczema. You're just going to have to get used to it." And I remember hearing these words going, who says that? You're going to have to get used to it. And there's no cure. And so I looked at her, the second doctor, and I said, "Doctor, I don't think you should tell people that there's no cure. I think you should say you don't know what the cure is."
Mm.
And I said, "Because I'm here to tell you, I'm going to heal myself. And when I do, I'm going to come back and let you know."
Yes.
So, I made it really clear that I didn't think it was a good idea to tell people there was no cure. You know that do no harm thing?
Yes.
When you tell people there's no cure, that's
That's
doing
doing a
harm.
lot of harm. Or when you tell them like there's 3 days or 3 months or 3 weeks to live,
You
same
got
thing.
it.
Like I've witnessed, you know,
Mhm.
my friend's
The
father
power
had
of
a
belief.
diagnosis and then boom, like bought into it.
And we all know people who have lived way beyond what they've been told, whatever,
Yes. Yes.
or
My
people who
grandpa.
waited for their loved ones. So anyway, I went on a mission. This was before I met Jesus, before I knew that I had some abilities. I went on a mission to try to heal my eczema, and I was trying everything, like meal and lotions and, steroids and you name it. I tried, I don't know, 30 different things. Nothing worked. And then when I started to learn what I learned, I realized I was looking in the wrong place for my answer. Like I was looking in products and treatments. I wasn't looking for what the root cause of my issue was. Why did I even have this? What was this here for? When I got to that, my eczema went away and I never had it again.
And what was for you? What was your root cause? Was there mind, body, emotional connection for you?
But there is always
Yes.
a mind,
Yes.
the
Body.
mental, the emotional
Yes.
body, and the physical
Yes.
body are all connected, right?
Yes.
When you have
Totally.
a physical illness, the first thing most people do is deal with it physically. So they'll go to a doctor for a treatment or a medication, surgery, whatever. But the first place to look is not there. Your
Right.
answer's not there. Those are treatments. If you want a cure, you have to go to the mental, emotional body. That's
Yes.
where you'll find your root cause. And
Yes.
that's where you can heal your root cause. And then magically the body adjusts. It reacclimates to the new you, which has a new way of being, a new shift, a new consciousness. So this is what I'm about. So I run towards people with cancer diagnoses and things like that because nobody has to suffer. Nobody is here to suffer. Nobody, not even for 1 second. If you're suffering, if you have an illness or a chronic condition or anything, you suffer from depression, anxiety, any kind of condition at all, heart condition, diabetes, um, high blood pressure, whatever it
Right.
is,
Yes.
you don't need to have that. And just because
Amen.
Western medicine may not have a cure for you doesn't mean there isn't one. And the
Yes.
cure is in you.
Yes. You're
And
speaking my
so,
language.
that's what basically Jesus was trying to tell us. And I took him seriously. And I want everyone to take him seriously, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, doesn't matter. Jesus didn't care I was Jewish. Jesus didn't care I didn't believe in him. He just wanted to know he loved me, and I believe that he loves all of us. And this isn't about Jesus. And you don't have to believe in Jesus, just like I didn't. But you can still understand that we are all connected. We're all cut out of the same cloth.
Yes. Yes.
We all have everything contained within us. We have everything we need right now. We're already whole, perfect, and complete. We are that. I call it
Yes.
the moreness of who we are. Like, to give you an example, like, how you can hear yourself talking to yourself, like in your
Yes.
head?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, when you let go of the physical body, when you pass on from this dimension, you're going to keep hearing that. You're going to be like, where am I? Wait a minute, I'm still here. You're going to have consciousness.
Yes.
Your consciousness goes with you. So you may not have a physical body, but your consciousness is eternal. Okay. So that's what I call the moreness of who we are, because that space within us, which is vast and way bigger than anything of our physical body or our physical lives. The
Yes.
moreness of we are is connected to all life everywhere, every sage that ever was, to Jesus, to God, to everything. We're all connected. And in that space, we're whole, we're perfect. And that is our true identity. And when you can identify yourself from that space, when you can think from that space, that's called miracle mindedness. That's where
Yes.
all miracles take place from that
Miracle
consciousness.
mindedness. I love that.
So, yes, you can heal anything. Don't give up. Just look in the right place. Your answer's not in treatments and all that stuff. If you want to heal yourself permanently, you got to do the inner work. You just do. There's no way
Yes.
around it.
Yes.
If your
Yes.
engine doesn't start in the car, you don't start kicking the tires and thinking that's going to solve the problem, right? You have to go right to the source. The source is mental, emotional. We all know this. We do. We all know it somewhere within us. And illness is not a curse. It's the universe saying, it's not okay for you to settle anymore in your life. It's not okay for you just to be getting by. This thing that you have right now is an opportunity. Embrace it. Say, God, the universe thinks so much of me. It wants me to live my highest. It wants me to thrive, and use this catalyst. Use this seeming challenge. To wake out of your slumber, to remember who you are and whose you are, who created you, and who's operating through you. There's only one. There's not one and us. There's one as us. And that that one word as, changes everything. Because God as you can do all things. All things. But if you think it's up to you and it's little old you and little powerless you, nothing good's going to come of that. Right. So you got to open your mind. Open your mind. Come out of the small beliefs, the limiting beliefs, the fear-based beliefs. Come out of it. In the Bible, it says, come out amongst them. What it means is come out of that smallness. Not a following. You are more than this. Don't buy into a diagnosis. Don't buy into any of the energy that goes with that, fear and dread and worry. You're eternal. Nothing can come nigh your dwelling place.
Yes.
Come from that space and you will free yourself. That they say the truth sets you free, right? The truth is you are more than any diagnosis.
Yes. 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 Wow. Donna, you're just like, it's again, it's that absolute that you stand in, right? It's like there's the intellectual knowing of that, and then there's the embodying of it, right? And it's that it's done unto you as you believe. And so it's that faith and belief and knowing have like, this is how it works, people. Like,
That's
I'm
it.
not going to buy into this separation, this
It's simpler
little,
than anybody thinks. You know, I mean, when Jesus came across Lazarus, who was
yes,
dead as a doornail,
right?
okay, dead as a doornail, no pulse, not breathing, people around him going, he's been dead for a while, okay? Jesus didn't go, please, Lazarus, wake up. He didn't say that. He said, hey, dude, pick up your bed and walk. Like what he saw was somebody acting dead. And that's what we have to see. You're acting sick. It's
Mm,
not to diminish the pain that comes with having a diagnosis. It's horrible. It's horrible,
yes,
but you don't have to operate under it. It's an illusion of
yes,
this world, of this dimension. But who you really are is way more than that. And when you know that, then you can set yourself free from the condition. And I want that
right.
for everyone. I do believe in my heart of hearts that there will come a day in evolution, in our conscious evolution, where we will not need illness anymore as a part of being human, because
Mm,
it's just there to get us back into alignment with the truth of who we really are. And once
mm,
people wake up to that, they won't need this anymore. They'll
mm.
just be standing in the truth, knowing who they are and thriving, because that's what we're here to do. It's what God wants for us. God wants us to thrive. God's not giving us illness.
Right, right. I mean, as we're talking, I'm feeling my like my tooth, I had dental surgery last week, and I'm feeling the throbbing. I'm thinking, okay, I've got some work to do here around this, but where does the like pain and healing, the physical pain and healing, like
Mhm.
how do you work with that piece?
Yeah. Well, okay. So with pain, we have that expression, pain pushes until the vision pulls.
Yes.
And I love that expression. And it means there's another vision you haven't quite caught yet, and that
Mm,
pain's there to just, tap you, tap you, tap you. In 2001, I somehow ended up on my back, okay,
okay.
and was
With
in
back pain.
excruciating pain. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I was about a 50 in pain. You can't even imagine how much pain. I couldn't get up. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't do anything. And I spent 5 weeks in a bed, unmovable, and had to have people coming in and taking care of me, etc. And the universe taught me a lot then. That was in 2001. And didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know why. I didn't have an event, by the way. There was no event.
It just happened. It just came
Yeah,
on.
I was laying on the floor with the dog watching television. When I went to get up, I couldn't.
Wow.
Yeah. So, um, so I know what it's like to have unbelievable, excruciating pain. I mean, I wanted somebody to kill me. I was willing to take drugs. I was willing to do whatever it took. If somebody had brought me a bottle of Jack Daniels, I would have drank it. Like I was begging people for things. That's how bad, how much pain I was in. But on the fifth week, something happened. I I had somebody come over, and I had two friends sitting with me. One was sitting in a chair, one was just sitting on the bed with me. And somehow we were talking, and I don't know what the conversation was because I don't remember it. But all of a sudden, I started crying like, again,
Mm-hmm.
like
The
from your
soul
feet up,
remembering.
and I was absolutely hysterically crying. I couldn't tell you anything mentally that I couldn't tell you. It just, and after I got done crying, which was about an hour of
Wow.
literally my body heaving, as soon as I stopped crying, pain was gone.
Wow.
I got out of the
Wow.
bed. I got out of the bed. And the next day I was standing straight up in the air and was fine.
So it was all of those emotions that had to move through you. It was just all that stuck
It was
emotion.
stuff that I had lost somebody very, very close to me. And I had just found out the month before. And I
Mm,
thought that I had processed it. I thought that I had grieved it, but I
mm-hmm.
hadn't. And
Oh, and so it's just
the
stuck.
pain was pushed all the way down to my back. I mean,
Wow.
yeah. So there was just a lot of mental, emotional pain that needed to be released, but I wasn't conscious of it. And it
And
wasn't
that's the
until
feel it to heal it. That's a demonstration of feel it to heal it. And you felt
yeah,
all of it and then it moved through you.
yeah. So I knew that this whole like mental, emotional thing and pain is real. So there cannot be physical pain unless there's mental, emotional pain.
Okay.
Cannot. Okay. So just assume that there's mental, emotional pain if you're in pain. And don't give up until you're honest with yourself enough to let it surface.
Okay.
Just be really, really honest. You don't have to tell anybody else. Just be honest with you. Yeah, I'm in so much pain around X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
you're in pain about, that's that's the
Mm,
key that's going to unlock the door.
yeah. I don't have the answer at the moment, but as you invited that, like I felt myself start to get emotional with the invitation, right? It's like, oh,
It's
right.
there.
So it's that invitation to just sit and allow that to come forth, like, yours organically did unexpectedly with your friends there. And it's interesting that your friends were there when it came through because sometimes we need that space holder, right? That's why you do the
Yeah.
work you do as an intuitive healer. That's why I do the work as a practitioner because you need somebody to go on the journey with you, right?
Yeah.
So,
And feel safe.
yeah. So,
Yeah. Cause I did. I did. I wailed right in front of them, you know?
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
guess that was good. That was a level of vulnerability that I needed to experience, but everybody has their own personal journey and believe it or not, it's all beautiful. You know, it's, we go through it however we go through it, you know,
Right.
but I do stand for, we do not need to suffer. I stand for that for each and every one of us. We are not here to suffer. Now you can learn through it, but you don't have to learn through that. You can learn through insight, you know, you can learn through just being willing. So, I just love this subject. I could talk about it forever
I
because
know.
I could.
Right. I love it. I love it. And
There's
I'm
just too
super
many people in the world suffering,
right. Yes,
you
there
know,
is. There is.
and they're here to thrive. And I'll never give up on that. I'll never give up on anybody.
And I
Never.
love that you told the doctor, don't tell them that it can't be cured. Tell them that you don't know how to cure it, but
Yeah.
don't say it can't be cured, right? Yeah,
Right.
and I have a um chiropractor energy medicine doctor. I think of him as a mystic. And when I went once and I said, yeah, they told me I have high blood pressure. He goes, you don't have high blood pressure. Don't let them give you that diagnosis. Right. He was like, just like you are like, no, that is not like, but like, I still have like some work to do around that. Right. Because I've been given that. And
Yeah.
so I
Doctors have a
appreciate,
lot of power, don't they?
yeah, I appreciate the invitation to, not buy into the diagnosis and to, know my
Cancel it
wholeness
out.
and also to sit and get quiet either, by myself or with my practitioner or, with another person I feel safe with to, allow whatever's there to process through and up and out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the eczema was kind of was an interesting thing that I was presented with, because eczema is actually a really can be a challenging thing to heal, because it involves, what I discovered in the healing of my eczema was that I was revving a little too high. You know what I mean? My energy,
Mm-hmm.
I was wound a little too tight. That's another way to say it.
Oh,
And
okay.
that vibration wasn't centered in peace and knowing, it was centered in anxiousness,
Right. Yes.
stress. So I had to kind of tune my vibration in order to heal the, and in any condition, we're all energy, right? We're all frequency, we're all energy. So every illness carries a certain vibration. And in order to heal it, you have to raise your own vibration, your consciousness above the vibration of the illness. And then the illness has nothing to resonate with. It can't stick to you.
Right.
So I had to tune my vibration above the vibration of this condition called eczema. I mean, that's just what I did. I sort of tuned into my body and I felt my body, and I felt the vibration of my body. And I realized that I was revving just a little bit. And that was causing the eczema. And as
Now,
soon as I sort of tuned back,
yeah.
it went away.
Did you feel at that time when you were going through this, like, because eczema is right, like it's an outer coating, it's like this protective coating. Did you need to protect yourself from something? Were you, or
Well, I
was
had it
what?
for many years. It's funny that you say that, because I was in a kind of icky relationship at the time
So you
when I
were needing
first
to like,
developed it.
yeah, protecting yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, or
Or
just I think it's a really
or
good question. I didn't think of it the way you're saying it right now about protecting myself. I didn't really think of it that way. I thought of it as me not really being anchored completely in the truth, and being falling prey to certain beliefs that were causing me to be in the world in a in a way that where I was too wound too tight,
okay,
like
yeah, I get
nervous.
that. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and and so, but it was probably related to the relationship I was in and what I was believing about myself and the situation I was in. Yeah.
Hmm, hmm,
But
hmm.
I had to grow.
Well, and that's what it's always about.
Yeah, it is.
It's always about having to grow, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
it
what it's
sure is.
about. Yeah. Well, I feel like we could talk for hours, but we probably, looking at the time. I want to have you back. Or I don't know if you want, I loved, and this is a little off topic, but still I think everything's on topic. Um, how you talked about meeting your amazing wife. And I
Oh,
don't know if we want to save that like for another like conversation, but it just, it's a different version of just this, like, God's got this, right? Like how before
100%.
we got onto this call, you and I were talking about, we both, for our audience, a gazillion years ago, Donna was a recruiter, and I have been a recruiter for 24 years. And she was talking about what was it that God told you? Tell me the phrase.
Um,
I'm doing
well,
this. Or-
I used to be the needle in the haystack recruiter, so I always had these really, really hard positions to fill, what seemed like impossible, and that other recruiters were saying no to because they didn't see a way to fill it. But God said to me, if you say yes, then I will fill the position for you.
Yes, yes,
And I was
yes.
like, I mean, up until then, I was stressed out. No wonder I had eczema. I mean, I was really stressed out about it. I would take on these job orders, and they were like, I didn't know the first thing about how to fill it. They'd be these backgrounds of people that were just no way to find them, no way to identify them. And I would say yes because I was crazy, but Spirit kept saying, just say yes. And then I would fill them, but I went through hell in the meantime. I didn't trust. So something in me said yes, but then I was in the way, and I was like, if I can't do it, what if I don't, all that stuff. And I just hated the job because of it. But then Spirit said, I wanted to quit. I wanted to walk away. And Spirit said, don't, just say yes. and trust that I will fill the position. Trust me, I will fill the position. And so that's what happened. So I decided to trust God. And every position after that, I was telling you earlier that I then very like right after it had a serious miracle happen. And God proved to me that God was going to fill the positions. And after that, I stayed in it and I did it. And God just filled the positions, even when I had no idea. I remember one guy hired me to do this job and I didn't even know what he was talking about. Like,
You
name
didn't
the
even know
job.
what the
I'd never
position
heard of
was.
it. Yeah, and we didn't have Google back then, right? So I couldn't even Google it. So I was like, what is this job? And I started calling people. Nobody knew what it was. Meanwhile, I told them I would do it, you know? And then Spirit just like out of the blue just would drop somebody in my lap that had the background. I couldn't even describe what it was. I couldn't tell them what it was. You know, it
And I
was
think
just
that's it's the same principles that you're using with healing. It's trust and faith and belief, and it's done unto as you believe. And
yes,
so I think our hardest and our challenge as human beings that you've really, I think, mastered this muscle is getting out of the way, right?
that's it.
Because we're living in this world that's telling us one thing, right? But
Right.
that's not always the truth. And so it's just learning how to get out of the way.
That's
And
it.
that's
You
where the
know,
trust and belief comes in.
and that's what I meant is it's easier than you think it is because
Oh
we
my
all
God.
can we can get out of the way. We know how to get out of the way. Okay. You have to quiet this. That's really all it is. Quiet the mind. The mind is a demon. It lies to you all day long. It's a big giant liar.
I
Don't
remember
believe
you saying
anything
something
it
about
says.
putting yellow. You
Yellow
said like
caution tape.
we need to put caution tape around our mind.
Yeah, there's no reason. You do not have to be thinking thoughts at all ever. Okay? It's whatever you would ever think, it would be much smaller than what God's thinking. So why bother? So, it's just not useful. You have to quiet the mind, get out of the way, and allow it to come through you. God knows what it's doing. It doesn't need any direction or help from you. It just needs you to say yes. So before everything I do, I say, use me, put me in. I
Right.
don't have to know anything. I don't have to know about the disease. I've had people come to me with rare diseases, never heard of them. Okay. Nobody's ever heard of them. That doesn't matter. I can still help you heal. Doesn't matter what it is.
Right. And I love
God knows what it's doing.
yes, and I love that you say use me because it takes me back to the beginning of Ricky. Use me. Oh
Yeah.
God. I would, and like you said that you bawled the first time because when Carly Anderson
Carl
sang.
Anderson.
Like for
Yeah.
probably the first 3 to 4 months when I went, I would always cry because the music ministered to me more than the
Me too.
message. And for me, the
Me too.
music, it would open my heart. And then, I'd touch the truth and then I'd cry. And it was just like this healing, just going
Yeah.
there and having Ricky minister to my soul through the music.
Yeah. Exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So it's the spiritual journey is so beautiful. It's so beautiful and it's so, it's enlivening and it's meant to bring you back to the truth of who you really are, your true identity. You're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, you're not your opinions of yourself or other people's opinions of you. You're so much more than that. You're so much
hallelujah.
more, you know?
Hallelujah.
And so when you
Hallelujah.
wake up to that, everything changes. You walk in the world different, you
Yes.
know? So
Donna, I love you. I love you. I love you. You're amazing. You're an
thank you.
inspiration. And
Thank you.
are a fabulous reminder to me and everybody else of, how easy it can be if we just get out of the way and trust God and allow the work to be done in, through, and as us. So how can people get in touch with you? I'll put it in the show notes, but also if you want to tell them if you want to, book a healing session with Donna. She makes her living full time as a healer.
Yeah, I'm going to start mentoring people too, like practitioners. And it doesn't have to be a practitioner, but I think practitioners are just naturally wired to do this work. And it's just going to another level in their own confidence as a healer, you know. Um, and so I'm going to be doing some mentoring with practitioners. So if people are interested in doing that, they can reach out to me. And I still see private clients. I'm pretty busy. I don't have a lot of space, but you know, if somebody really needs help, I'm not gonna say no, unless there's an unwillingness to do their own work, their inner work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so they can go to donnagershman.com. But I don't recommend doing that on a cell phone. I'd recommend that doing that on a laptop or computer. If you're on a cell phone, then you should go to youwillheal.blogspot.com. That's my website. And it'll look better on your phone if you go to that address versus donnagershman.com. For some reason, it's not mobile friendly.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I got to get that fixed. But anyway, so
Well,
yeah,
we'll put down the show notes. So if anybody
thank you.
wants to reach out to you, and I was actually talking to somebody about you today that's been struggling with knee pain, and I said, well, I'm going to be talking to somebody, so you're probably going to hear from somebody.
Happy to
So,
support.
okay. And
my office number is on my website.
beautiful, beautiful. And I'll put in the show notes as well. If you want to book a counseling session with me, you can reach me through my website at valerieday.com. And then I do a meditation call Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. It's free if you want to have a more interactive experience with me. And Donna, I usually close out our call with prayer. So, you know, I don't know if you want to join in that, or I'll do a prayer and pass it to you, or you know how you want to do that. We didn't talk about that before, but I always like to end our calls with prayer.
I'm absolutely happy to do prayer. So but I would love to hear you pray. So
Yeah, I'll pray. I'll do it. Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
you do it and I'll
So,
just be
all
here
right.
holding the space with you, okay?
Awesome. So
Okay.
we just come to the altar of prayer, just, oh my God, just recognizing that one mind, that one power, that one infinite intelligence in all, as all, through all, my life, the one life. We give thanks for this awesome podcast, this conversation, this beautiful intuitive healer named Donna that showed up to just share her journey, her wisdom, and the screenplay that's emerging, the series that's emerging of all of the miracles. And so what I hold for all of our listeners is just knowing that they are the I am that I am, that it truly is done unto you as you believe. And so we know that that belief is the essence of spirit expressing uniquely, authentically, creatively in its fullness and its wholeness as each person hearing this call, hearing this podcast, hearing this message. So we just affirm wholeness, grace, ease, thriving, this or something better. And just remembering the beautiful teachings of Jesus that Donna has shared with us this day, and that Jesus held for us to be doing greater than him, greater than him, greater than him. So we just know that each one of us shows up in that fullness and wholeness and expression of the I am that is joy in our lives, joy expressing. So I give thanks for this time to be together. I give thanks for all that has been known, felt, witnessed, experienced. And I just release this prayer to the action of the law, knowing it's complete, knowing it's done, saying, and so it is, and so I let it be. Amen, 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 amen. Ah, okay, everybody, we love you. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.